Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your video on fractions, decimals, and percents. After this video you will be able to convert between fractions, decimals, and percents. This should seem fairly familiar to all of you because we have worked with fractions, decimals, and percents in a previous unit, and now we're making that connection again now that we've dealt with proportions. So percents as fractions. Okay, if we have 8 1/3 as a fraction and we want to write that in simplest form, what I remember is that a percent means per 100. So I know that it is that 8 1/3% is the same as 8 1/3 out of 100. So what that means is that I can simply just divide by 100. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do 8 1/3 divided by 100. Remember, to divide fractions, you need to have them in fraction form. So 8 1/3 is the same as 25 over 3 divided by 100 over 1. Well, remember, dividing fractions is easy as pie. We're going to flip the second and multiply. So if I multiply across, I could cross cancel, but if I multiply across, I get 25 out of 300. If I simplify that, 25 goes into both. What I get in simplest form is 1/12. So what that means is that 8 1/3 of a percent is the same as 1/12 as a fraction. Here's another one. A collectible action figure sold for 190% of its original price. Write this percent as a fraction in simplest form. So notice we have 190%. This percent is greater than 100. So that would mean that the number on top would be greater than 100, which means that the number that it's going to be equal to is going to be greater than 1. So what I do again is I take 190%, and I know that's the same as 190 out of 100, because it's percent per 100. Well, I can simplify that by dividing by 10, because I see those zeros there. So that's the same as 19 over 10. Or 10 goes into 19 one whole time with 9 of the 10 remaining. So the toy sold for 1 9/10 of its original price. Give these a try. Come back and check. 150% is the same as 150 per 100. Divide by 10, I have 15 over 10. I can either simplify knowing that 5 is a factor of both now, or change it to say 10 goes into 15 once with 5 of the 10 remaining. Then see that they share 5 as a factor. So 150% is the same as 1 1/2. Or 3 over 2. 17 1/2%. That's the same as 17 out of 100. So I'm going to change this. You could use a calculator, but I want to make sure I'm practicing my skills. So I multiply and I get 35 over 2 divided by 100 over 1. Which is the same as 35 over 2 times 1 over 100. So I get 35 over 200. They for sure share 5 as a factor. So I get 7/40. Last one, 33 1/3%. It's 33 1/3 divided by 100. I'm going to go through that same process. So I get 94, right, 94? No, 100. Oh, I'm messing up. Erase, please. So when I do 33, I really have 100, sorry. 100 over 3 times, or divided by 100. I got 100 over 3 from changing this to an improper fraction. And so I keep, change, and flip. Those 100s are going to cancel, and I have 1 over 3 left over. So now fractions as percents. Okay, fractions as percents. So you have a couple options here. You can choose the method. You can either multiply to get a denominator that has a factor of 100, or you can use a proportion. So one way, 15 does not multiply to 100. So I'm going to try something else. First, I'm going to estimate my answer. 4/15 is approximately 4/16, which simplifies to 1/4, which is 25. So it should be around 25%. Estimate. So since this isn't a factor of 100, I'm going to do a proportion. So I'm really saying 4/15 is the same as what percent out of 100? So we learned already that we can do cross products. So I multiply across, and I get 400 is equal to 15 times x. Then I divide by 15, and I find out that x is approximately 26.67. Because I rounded, I guess on the calculator, I would have gotten that 6 would have been repeating. So this kept going. So I would have rounded to the hundredths place for 26.67. We're looking for a percent, so percent. Checking for reasonableness, 26 and 67/100% is close to my estimate of 25. Only a tiny bit more, stay with us. In Boston, 89 out of 10,000 residents blog. Write this fraction as a percent, rather. So for this one, again, I'm going to do that proportion maybe, or reduce it. I could reduce it. So I have 89 out of 100,000 is the same as what number out of 100? I'm trying to find that equal ratio. So I do my cross products. And then I divide. Now, so those zeros are going to go away, and I end up with, on my calculator, I would end up getting, well, because when I reduce that, notice I have 89 over 1,000, which I can read as 89 thousandths. So that means that 89 thousandths of a percent, which isn't very many, of Boston's residents blog. So that percent is less than 1%. Give these ones a try, and then we're almost there. So write each one, and then remember to read directions, round to the nearest hundredth. So 2/15, 15 is not a factor of 100, like we used to deal with. So how much out of 100? Is that the same as? Cross products, 2 times 100 is 200. 15 times x is 15x. Divide to get your variable alone, and we get 200 divided by 15, and I get 13, and this 3 is going to repeat. So since I'm rounding, I look to the thousandths. Since it's 4 or less, I'm going to let it rest. So this is approximately 13 and 33. Since I was looking for a percent here, I add my percent sign. 7 over 1,600 is the same as how much out of 100. So I have cross product 700 equals 1,600 times x. Divide to get my variable alone. Make it a little easier on myself. Those hundreds are going to cancel. So I really have 7 out of 16, which on a calculator I get this is equal to x, but I'm rounding to the hundredths, so I look to the thousandths, 5 or more, raise the score. So I have 44 hundredths of a percent. Last one, 17 out of 25. So notice I could do proportion here, or because this is a factor of 100, I can just multiply by 4 to get there. So then I'd also multiply the top by 4. I get 68. So 68 out of 100 is 68%. Okay, so just kind of a wrap-up of what this means, and I've been saying this all year already. 80% is the same as 4/5, and is the same as 8/10. Fractions, decimals, and percents are different names and different ways to represent the exact same number. So these are all equivalent numbers that look different, okay? So kind of remember that, like you can show a quiz score by a fraction, by a percent, and as a decimal as well. So those are all equivalent ways to represent the same number. Nice little flow chart. So last few, just to have you have some extra practice and try. If you're ready, that's great. 5/6 as a percent. So I'm going to, 6 is not a factor, so I'm going to do how much out of 100. Do my cross products. 500 is equal to 6 times x. Divide by 6. And I get 500 divided by 6 is 83, and 3 is repeating. Rounded to the hundredths is just 83, and 3 repeating. So I can just write that as 83 and 1/3%. Even though it says round to the hundredths, so I would write it as this. This is just if you need extra practice. Otherwise, have a good one. Bryce has read 3/5 of a book. What percent of the book is that? So 3/5. I know that 3/5, 5 can go to 100 by multiplying by 20. So I do the same thing with my numerator, and I get 60. So he has read 60% of his book. On the bottom, 16 does not go to 100. So I would use cross products here. Got the same as the one on top. Nope, 6. That's equal to 16x divided by 16. And I get 31 and 25/100%. So 31 and 1/4. 2/9, last one, I swear. Cross products. Notice it's a routine now. So I'm trying to figure out what percent it is. Divide by 9. I get 22, and that 2 is going to repeat. So that's the same as 22 and 22/100%. Yay, some familiar things. I'm hoping that you could find some confidence here. And remember, fractions, decimals, and percents are all ways to represent the same number. Have a great day.